wow, that was a nice big announcement. Um, I think one of the things that she said about sometimes it was just about me going and cleaning out their coat closet. That really resonated with me. I had a bunch of projects in my head, and it's funny because a lot of times we do projects to clean up our environment as a way to avoid what we need to do to sell more real estate or to sell more title or escrow or home warranties or insurance or mortgage. I've had people say, "Oh yeah, I was gonna lead generate today, but then I remembered I was supposed to clean out my closet," or "I was gonna lead generate today, but then I remembered, I had to wash my car or wash my hair." I mean, there's a million different reasons, and we really start to have this internal belief that I'm not worthy of having the things I want because when I'm doing the things that I'm avoiding my personal, the stuff that I need to do to sell more houses or make more money to live my dreams, then I get to be right about something. And the saying from my coach was this: every human being, everything they do is they do it for a reward. And when you hear the word reward, you think of good things. But a lot of times the reward is I get to be right about how badly I suck. And that's not a reward I want anymore, right? So I'm having to address on a regular basis this tendency to move towards them. But I did do something. In other words, the last 4 or 5 nights, I've stayed up past midnight and gotten up before 7. So we're talking 5.5 to 6.5 hours sleep. I used to do that a lot in my younger days. I don't do it as much now. I like my 7.5 or 8 hours sleep. But I got a lot of stuff done. Like in the back of my mind, my barbecue was horrible. Like I look at the way my sons treat their Traeger grills with respect, and I was like, mine was horrible. And you're like, what, Rick, your barbecue? Yeah, but it was bugging me. It was like in the back of my mind, the 2 cabinets in our master bathroom underneath, horrible looking, right? Went to Container Store. I don't even like going to the Container Store because I feel like you buy shit you don't need. But I went to the Container Store, measured everything, found solutions, stayed up till almost 1 in the morning last night, finishing that. You know, Today's my wife's birthday, so I wanted the house to be immaculate for her. We're going to some friends. I know when we come back from somewhere we go to, she loves when the house, so the house cleaners are coming today. I mean, it's like all of this stuff. My favorite little, I have this 1979 MGB. It's a little, if you do, does anybody know what an MGB is? Um, it's a little English sports car, and 1979 was the last year they made them in the United States. It's orange, and I had a little starting problem, got that taken care of, took the top off. Now it's ready for me to enjoy it. Like everything's ready for me to be even more successful than I am now. And sometimes you do have to deal with these things. What you have to do is find the balance between, am I doing that to avoid, am I doing these things to avoid the work that I need to do to create my income, or am I doing them because I just can't move forward right now? I'm frozen in that, right? So anyway, if I don't know how many of you saw the email I sent out about last week's call and about today's call being called, "Are you urgent in the marketplace?" And I like to think I am right now. I mean, I think there's a lot of urgency in my head and in my body and in the environment I'm creating and in my real estate sales team. And the reason I know is this morning when I was running around the house, I got up really early again. Casey said, "You're scowling." So I didn't realize I was scowling, but that's my get the F out of my way. I got crap to do. That's that look. How many of you have that once in a while? Okay. Thanks for being honest. Now, here's why I say that. Um, when I'm pissed off, and I'm not pissed off very often, by the way, being pissed off is better than being pissed on. But when I am pissed off, here's one thing that happens: the house gets clean, right? So I would say that if Casey was manipulative, which she's not, she can manipulate me into being pissed off more often for there to be constantly an immaculate household. Um, but there's just certain things, even when I'm not pissed off, that just so much builds up, and you need to open up this space. So if you looked at the email I sent 6 things. I said, are you urgent in the marketplace about your attitude, about handling buyers and handling sellers? And are you urgent about an enthusiastic outlook? Are you urgent about how you appear in the public eye? And are you urgent about communication? And the reason I say that is that there's so much that we can be urgent about, or we can put aside being urgent about. And you might say, well, the buyers are urgent because they know if they don't make an offer and it's good, they're just going to get bumped out. Somebody's going to pay more. But what you want to learn to create is urgency in buyers, all right, in any market. When there's hundreds of homes for them to choose from, how do you create urgency? These are tools of the trade that you have to know. And I'm not saying we're necessarily going to go through all of them today, but we're definitely going to jump through those 6 things. I'm going to give you an example. Mo Anderson, a lady that used to run, she used to be the chief executive officer, and today she's the co-chairman of the board or vice chairman of the board for Keller Williams Realty. She used to stand in front of her offices when she had Century 21 offices and when she had Keller Williams offices. And she said she would literally scream in front of the room, to be enthusiastic, I have to act enthusiastic. And she would repeat this over and over again. And I like to say that enthusiasm without a vision is just rah-rah, right? And some people like rah-rah, some people don't. But why is there rah-rah at a football game for your high school, right? Well, to get the crowd behind the team. And if the crowd gets behind the team is more driven to please the crowd. There's an actual purpose behind that. Why do they say that baseball teams and football teams do better at the home field, right? This is all psychological, guys. And the problem is we're dealing with psychology every day on our own, meaning we don't have a coach that's calling us up every morning. I remember going through a 90-day coaching program once where you had to talk to your coach every single morning, weekdays, for 10 minutes, just 10. And he would challenge you to do something. This was a mindset coach. Ridiculous. And I was traveling a lot, and I would be standing in an airport terminal at 6 a.m. talking to him, and he'd say, give me 3 I'm exciteds. And 3 I'm exciteds means you had to literally jump up and down where you were yelling, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited, in a freaking airport. And you were not allowed to reject his challenge unless it put you under harm of personal safety. Well, yelling, I'm excited, man, I remember doing it in one airport, and there was a little kid standing next to me, and he looked up at me and dashed the other way and grabbed his mother's leg and hid behind her, right? Talk about something that's not going to give you a good impression of yourself, that kids are running away from you. But the beautiful thing is that urgency is what drives us through life. And if you are the majority of the human population has a lot of S in them, S in the DISC scale. And the S stands for supporter, structure, security, sentimentality, and it does not mean urgent. Urgent shows up in D's and I's, not in S's. So I'm a super high IS, and I know that my S likes to take over. So what do I have to decide? My behavioral style isn't going to support the rewards and success I want, so I have to intellectually decide to behave outside of that. All right? So I catch myself every Friday. It was just a coincidence that I created these free Friday coaching calls on a Friday. Just it happened to be the day that worked out, and it was 9 a.m. So now 9 a.m. every Friday I'm on this, but 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. I'm on the coach training call for the company I coach for. And that is 80 coaches and a lot of other people getting on and brainstorming problems with coaching. And guess what I'm doing when I'm listening to it? I'm not listening to it as a coach trying to be a better coach. I'm listening to it as a guy who is in the real estate business going, what could I do to be a better version of me? So when I put these coaching calls together, it was like, I got to learn to be a better me at 64 freaking years old almost. So I want everybody to come along on the journey with me, whether you're 22, like there's a guy on here named David Kim. I knew some agents with that last name that were from the East Bay. David, do you mind unmuting yourself? How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Where are you
Glad
from?
to be here.
Are you in the
So
Bay?
yes, so I'm actually down in LA. I work with Andy Weir with the Stroke Properties Group.
Yeah, Andy's on. Cool. Good to have you, David. There was a David Kim that was the son of a Kenny Kim up here. They're all in real estate for years, but they're from the Fremont, California area, not from the South, not from Southern California. So good to have you on. But you look like
It's like a John Smith.
yeah,
Yeah, there's quite a few of us.
but you look like you're in your 20s. Would you be in your 20s?
I have the baby face going for me, but I'm at 27.
Okay, so you are in your 20s. So I think the shoes I'm wearing right now are actually older than you, but yeah, but I think
Fair enough.
But I think that at any age, like at 27, I had urgency because I was married and we needed health care that I didn't have because I was a real estate agent. And like there's certain things that drive you to urgency. So, I remember when my wife has built a pretty successful network marketing business in a company called New Skin. And I remember when she went to New York on a trip for New Skin, and all the New Yorkers told her, oh, well, you got to get used to New Yorkers. We do this and we do this. And we were both coaching people on behavioral style at that time, and we were flying back and we were talking about how every New Yorker kind of said the same thing. Well, you got to get used to New Yorkers. We're like this, or we're like this. And what we talked about was humans are humans, guys. Wherever they are in the world, they're still humans. And there are going to be high ISs in New York, just like there are high ISs in California. And when they say New Yorkers do this or New Yorkers do that, guess what they're talking about? Themselves. I'm a New Yorker and I do this. Right? Well, I'm a Californian and I do this. And when I go around, when I used to speak a lot more than I do now, or traveling to speak, I'm doing a lot of speaking right here from my dining room. People are people. They act the same. They have the same resistances. And I was talking to a good friend of mine this morning, like no idea that I would have this information given to me by this good friend. He's in Tampa. He grew up with my wife here in the East Bay of Northern California. And he's a real estate agent with eXp Realty in Tampa, but he does all this other stuff. He gets online and plays with options. And I said, hey, did you play with options? Because he makes the majority of his money doing that. He goes, yeah, I had a really good morning. I made $800 in 7 minutes, right? Doing options and things like that. But he was most excited about he's helping find investors for large condominium projects in Austin, Texas. And he was super excited about that. But I don't know how we got on the subject. We were talking about Matthew McConaughey and this book that Matthew wrote. And if I haven't told it to you guys about it before, I thought I did, but the book's called Green Lights. And you got to listen to it on Audible. Don't read it, because when you listen to it on Audible, he's telling his own story. And it's like watching a movie with no video. When we're listening to it on Audible, you know what I find myself doing? Staring at the speaker. Like I'm like this, like staring at the speaker, because you're just dying for the next thing because it's so freaking good. And it's like it's his life, and he tells you what the lesson he learned from each thing that happened in his life. It's incredible. But on that subject, he was talking about getting to hear an interview with Bill Clinton many years after he was the president. And everybody was shocked because the interviewer said, what are you most proud of? What are you most proud of during your presidency? And the one thing he said that nobody expected him to do, he said, was the Human Genome Project. Now, Casey and I knew a lot about the Human Genome Project because it affected the research that was being done at Nu Skin, the company she's done very well with. It's an anti-aging company. So they were literally studying the human genome to find out how aging could be reversed, right? But he went on to say that's 98.7% of every one of us is exactly the same. Exactly the same. All human beings are connected, that 98.7% of their makeup is exactly the same. And that when he started thinking about religious wars and racism and all these different things that were only the fight about the 1.3% difference. And he said how it made him realize that we weren't doing enough. He wasn't doing enough. None of us are doing enough to be more united. And yet, like I think of the way my dad and mom raised us, right? 8 years old, we're being transferred from, suburbia, Fremont, California, to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, to Beirut, Lebanon, to Athens, Greece, where the world was completely different than what we knew it, right? And my dad taught us at a very early age the one word. He said, we are an accepting family. We accept everyone. Everyone. I grew up not knowing color, race, sexual preference, religious preference. I mean, we were Christians in a Muslim country. We would hide out in someone's living room every Sunday night and have someone read the Bible to us. Okay. All of this stuff, ladies and gentlemen, in your past is what shapes who you are today. And you don't need to live in it. You don't need to make up stories about it. And you don't need to live in the old stories that aren't going to benefit you going forward. So urgency comes from handling the crap and realizing that it was meant to happen so that you can have the most amazing life ever. Because if you didn't learn that lesson from that, if you didn't learn it, you wouldn't be where you are today. You know, when I found Keller Williams in 2001, I was like, wow, why didn't anybody tell me about this company? Right. And then I realized, well, if I hadn't been with Coldwell Banker and Century 21 and the Independent and my uncle's brokerage all before that, I wouldn't have shaped the person who became appreciative of finding Keller Williams. Right? 2015, I left Keller Williams. I stuck my license with a friend of mine. She had a real estate company that she ran from her home, and she had 2 agents counting me and her. Right? Not a really big brokerage, but I just needed a friend who had a broker's license because I just didn't want to broker myself because I'm not a broker, and I didn't want to go to a franchise or a major company. And I just sat down and got busy selling houses. All right. But every time, like I moved again in 2017, and that was going to be the final move of my life. And it looks like it will be the final move of my life. But when I look back at why I accepted this final move so well, it was because of what I knew, what I built, who I became. And look at it like stepping stones. Let me ask you something. When you get to the top step, do your feet still go up and down? No, because you're at the top step, right? So what the top step represents is I'm done searching, right? I found my home as far as where I'm going to sell real estate, but what do I have to keep doing? I have to keep the steps going so that I can find the very best me. I can find the performance that I want. That's what the battle is daily. Because at 54 years old, I thought I was going to keep selling houses until I fell over dead because I was broke and I just needed to sell houses to catch up, to make a living, to pay the bills, to move forward. Right. And now I'm like, I'm 60, almost 64, and I can actually see a retirement age. And then I'm like, I don't want to retire. I think this is fun. Right. My team's doing better than ever. I'm learning the art of leverage and allowing other people to do things for me and teaching them to do it such that I'll still be proud of it and I'll get a little money for it. Not all the money, but I'll get a little of it. Right. I'd like to have a little of a lot than a lot of a little. Think about that. Why am I saying this? Go back to the email I sent, and it says, the title of the email said, "What's your image say about you?" Because I was referencing the last call, but I said, "Are you urgent in the marketplace?" And so how do I start by being urgent? Number one, my attitude. I have to wake up every morning being, 1, enthusiastic, being, number 2, being grateful. Actually, in the reverse order, I wake up being grateful for waking up, first of all, grateful for, in my opinion, my personal opinion, don't be offended, the God that I believe in, and the fact that I believe that if I didn't have that belief, I don't think that my life would be the way it is. Okay, that's my thing. But definitely enthusiasm, and it's tough to have enthusiasm when you've got less sleep than you want. I'll be honest with you. So I woke up a little less enthusiastic, and then I thought, oh, I get to talk to Jonathan at 7 a.m. It's 10 a.m. his time. And Jonathan's always a wealth of information. So I loved my talk with Jonathan. And then I got to get on the coaching call. But what I was doing is I didn't do anything on Zoom this morning like I normally do. I had everything with my camera off, my earphones in my ear, because I still had a lot to do around the house before the housekeeper. You know how you have to clean your house before the house cleaners get here? Anybody do that besides me? Right? Like you want to wash the sheets so they can replace them. And anyway, so I got to get up with a great attitude. What are my attitude triggers? Thank you, God, for another day. I do this a lot, like in my mind, because that's, for me, that's my thank you, God, for my life. Check in, allow me to be the man you think I'm best being out in the world. Those are always the things that I want to start my day with. But then I have to remember these 4 things that are part of my attitude. Please write these down. And most of you have heard them before, so you won't have to. I know Vanessa doesn't need to because she's heard them a million times. But I want to be in my day hungry, humble, smart, and coachable. I want to be hungry, humble, smart, and coachable. I want to surround myself with hungry, humble, smart, and coachable. Do you know what buyers and sellers I love the most? The ones that are hungry, humble, smart, and coachable. And you know how I know that? They're hungry to sell their house. They're hungry to buy a house. They're humble about the process, and they're dying for me to coach them on how to get through it. Right? If you are more hungry, humble, smart, and coachable every day, your clients will start to be that because that's what you will attract. All right. Now, why do I have to work on me being hungry, humble, smart, and coachable? I'll tell you why. Sometimes I wake up and go, 41 freaking years. You're damn right. I know what I'm talking about. That's not going to help me with my team. It's not going to help me with a buyer. It's not going to help me with that idiot real estate agent on the other end who hasn't read the confidential remarks in the MLS. It's not helping. Right? So I remind myself every morning, yes, you've been in the business 41 years, but guess what you found out in the last 6 months? That you're going to learn something that you've never experienced in every transaction, and it's happening as proof, right? I think I shared with you guys, I've always been in a luxury market, not because of the average sale price, because the term luxury means typically 2 to 3 times the average sale price. So if your average sale price is 800 grand, doesn't mean you're in a luxury market. That means 2.4 million is luxury. And a lot of people don't actually list in luxury. They think they do because they got an average sale price of $1 million. That doesn't make you a luxury person. But we put our normal for sale sign. We've probably rebranded 3 or 4 or 5 times in the last 10 years. Put our normal for sale sign in our $1.6 million listing that we took. All right. Now we know without a doubt, we took it for $1,585,000. We're going to get 4 or 5 offers. It's going to sell for over asking. We know it already. You know what the sellers did? They called me and they said, get that ugly ass sign out of our lawn or we're firing you. Okay, 41 years in real estate. That's never, ever, ever happened. Ever, like ever. All right. Now, what I wanted to say is you snobby piece of crap. But you know what I did? I went to my wife and I said, we have a problem, Houston. It really made me realize that that sign was not attractive. And you know what else I realized? I list mobile homes, not mobile homes on land that they own. I list mobile homes in mobile home parks. Okay. I list everything. I have a $3.4 million listing. I have a $200,000 listing. Like I list everything. I needed to come up with a sign that everybody would be okay with, that would be classy and luxurious, but wouldn't be offensive to others. So we're investing a big freaking chunk of money in completely rebranding everything right now. Lesson learned in my 41st year. And you know what I'm thinking? Gosh, I wish I would have done this earlier, but I can't live in the past, so we're doing it now. Urgency, urgency, urgency. All right. Now, none of what I've talked to you about has anything to do with going out in the day yet, but if you think about the next word, handling buyers, handling sellers, those are number 2 and 3 on the list that I sent you. Handling buyers and handling sellers has to be with urgency. Urgency doesn't mean rushing them to do something they're not ready to do. Urgency means finding out their urgency. All right. Urgency might mean, right? We don't want to manipulate people. What is manipulating? Listen to the definition. It's being recorded so you can listen to it again. The definition of manipulating is getting people to do something you want them to do for your own reasons. Manipulating somebody is getting them to do something you want them to do for your own reasons. All right. We want to enroll people. So what is the difference between the definition of manipulate and the definition of enroll? Here's the definition. The definition of enroll is the exact same definition with one word off from the definition of manipulation. So I'm going to tell you the definition of manipulation one more time. It's help. My mind went blank. Getting people to do something you want them to do for your own reasons. What's enrolling? Getting people to do something you want them to do for their own reasons. All right. Now, you guys have all heard me say this before, but I'm going to say it again. I want you to read the book, The Platinum Rule, written by Dr. Tony Alessandra in 1996. For a while, it wasn't even available. Now it's super popular all over again. Here we are 25 years later. All right. The platinum rule. Why? What did I just say? I want to enroll people, getting people to do something I want them to do for their reasons. Meaning, I'll want to do it more if it benefits me. So if I'm getting somebody to do something I want them to do, but they're seeing it as a benefit to themselves, they'll do it a lot quicker. What do you think recruiting is? What do you think getting a seller to list with you over someone else is? What do you think getting a buyer to buy with you over someone else is? What do you think getting a buyer to buy now when they said they weren't buying for 6 months is? It's never manipulation if you're doing it right. It's enrolling. It's getting them to do what they really want to do, but it's something you want them to do also, but they figure out a reason why they want to do it now. And sometimes the author, by the way, is Dr. Tony Alessandro, Alessandro, or maybe it ends in an A, Alessandra. I don't remember. But if you put in the platinum rule, it pops up in Amazon. Now, here's the thing, Casey, which is my wife's first name, only spelled Casey. So one of the things about the difference between manipulating and enrollment, you've all manipulated. We all do. And this is how, do you ever remember saying this to anybody? Would you do it for me, please? Anybody ever said that? You said it to your kids. You said it to your spouse. If you love me, would you just, if you loved me, you would. Like that's truly manipulation. If you loved me, you would. What the freak? I love you anyway, and I don't want to do that, right? But I remember learning about this when I was trying to form a committee for a nonprofit I had just learned. And you know what my coach told me? He said, well, you want people to join the committee. What have you been using? I go, come on, you know me. Let's do it. We can have a lot of fun together. He said, that's truly manipulation, Rick. He said, you have to know the person well enough and what they're looking for in their lives and show them how they can get what they're looking for in their lives by joining your committee. Talk about a tough assignment. Wait, you want me on the nonprofit fundraising committee, and how is that going to help my life? Right? Hey, Jim, do you remember that time we were having that talk and you said the thing that's missing in your life is you're just not helping enough people and you feel like you're just not helping enough people? How's that been going for you, Jim? This is an actual conversation I had. He goes, well, you know, I'm really involved in the church, but and I feel like I'm helping people and affecting their lives. He goes, you know, I'm making really good money at work. And I said, yeah, how's your family? He goes, my family, we get along great. He goes, I make sure I spend quality time, but I just feel like I could be helping more people. I go, well, listen, I just recently got involved with this for the same reason as what we were talking about, is to help more people. I'm helping a fundraising committee that what they fund is this thing called Drivers for Survivors. And they pick up people who have to go to chemo appointments and doctor's appointments that can't drive themselves. So it's just volunteering your time, and we need to raise some money to handle all the administration and to make that work. And he goes, that sounds like an incredible cause. How many people do they help a year? I said, well, right now they're helping about 380 and they hope to get to 1,000. He goes, I can help them get to 1,000. And he joined the committee instantly. Getting people to do something I want them to do, but for their reasons. And you guys, we do it all day long. We do it with buyers. We do it with sellers, right? We do it in our branding. We do everything. We're trying to get people to do something we want them to do, but we want them to find their fulfillment in doing it, right? You're never going to sell someone into buying a condo or a home. They already know they want to buy something. You're just trying to convince them to use you, right? Right? It's not like the act of somebody coming onto a car lot, right? Well, there's 6 bazillion cars. There's 6 bazillion realtors. Okay, that car dealer is trying to get them to buy one that's on this lot. We're trying to get them just to use me to buy any of them, right? So if the car dealership was run like the real estate brokerage thing, we'd all be in much, they could sell any car. That's what car brokers do. They would just come to me. I can sell you any car you want. So we have the best of both worlds. Our hourly wage is higher than anyone's when we work hard, right? That's why a lot of people get into real estate. So all I'm going to remind you of again is what I said, is you have to have urgency in all things. Now, you have to also have an urgency in your enthusiastic outlook, but your enthusiastic outlook has to come with some basis, some foundation. I can't just be super excited about being real estate. I'm in real estate, right? Do you know how many people I hired into real estate when I used to run that Century 21 years ago and when I owned all those Keller Williams offices? And this is what they'd say. I go, how did you think about getting into real estate? Well, I used to love going to open houses and I'm a really good decorator, so I knew I'd be a good real estate agent. I'm like, yeah, that's been the definition of success of all realtors. What? Right? I freaking hate going into open houses because I'm usually the one holding it. But people believed that if they liked going into open houses, right? One of the most successful realtors I ever met in my early days in the 80s and 90s when I was young in the business was this guy named Mark. I go, God, you know, but he wasn't polished. He was rough around the edges, but I liked him because he was honest and he didn't hide his potty mouth, and he wore a suit, but he looked like he didn't belong wearing a suit. You know what I'm saying? Like the shoulders were hanging off, but I loved the guy because he was always honest. And so one day I didn't even know. I said, hey, what did you do before real estate? And he goes, I still do what I did before real estate, only I only do it in my own home. And I go, what's that? And he said, I was a floor installer. And I go, and how did you get into real estate? He goes, well, it's kind of a funny story, Rick, and I'm going to use one foul word and I apologize, but I really want to tell the story authentically. He said, I was laying a floor in a home that was for sale. They had asked me to do it, even though the home was on the market. He said, I had those big knee pads on, because we're on the floor all the time. And I used to even wear ankle pads because I would lay my feet flat and the ankles would hit the floor. And he said, I had glasses on because the dust from the floor and stuff would come up. And he said, and I sit up on my knees because I'm down on all fours installing some floor. And I sit up on my knees as a realtor comes in and he brings some people with him. And he basically stood up on his knees and listened and watched the whole thing of the agent showing the houses. And he had known from his reputation that this guy was a relatively successful realtor. And I said, okay, so you saw, and the guy's name was Tom. We all knew Tom. Tom was a successful realtor. I said, oh, Tom, yeah, I know Tom. And he goes, and I go, and how did that help you become in real estate? He said, oh, it's easy, Rick. He said, if that asshole can sell houses, I certainly can. That's what he said. And that's how he became a realtor. And he became very successful as a realtor. And he said, I don't think my back or my arms or my legs would have supported me doing floors. And he goes, so it was a godsend. He said, and today when I see Tom, I always shake his hand. I don't tell him what I said in my mind, Rick, but I shake his hand and I say, thanks for being the impetus to me being in real estate. Right? The guy had urgency. He had urgency. We can't do without that word, guys, and you've all experienced it. But the problem is when your business isn't going the way you want it, look at your urgency. Just take a look at it and say, am I being urgent? All right. Now, when I say being urgent about your enthusiastic outlook, and the last one that was on the list, if you read the email, was public eye. It's because I was listening to this video. I didn't even get to watch the whole video, but he was talking about when they were ranking, when the public was asked to rank the occupation that they have the least respect for, that over a 25-year period, we were always in the top 3 of the least respected occupations in the United States. Now, I've heard those words like that since my uncle recruited me into real estate, since I failed to be accepted by any dental school. He said, you didn't want to go to dental school anyway, you need to be a realtor. All right. Lovely recruiting job. For 5 years, my first 5 years in real estate, I said, I'm not doing this for a living forever, Uncle, just so you know, right? Here I am 41 years later. He was right. He's dead. So he doesn't know he was right. So, but the main thing that I said about that is that as you, I lost my train of thought, but that he would talk about the idea of coming into real estate and knowing what you were talking about. Now, he was more about the knowledge of real estate. I was more about the enthusiasm of being in the business where the harder you worked, you could make more money. And when I've talked to the people on my team, what do we all celebrate? We celebrate each other. We're having fun. We try to be more urgent. But guess what? It has to be based in actual knowledge. It can't just be raw enthusiasm. So there has to be an urgency about the knowledge. And let me give you an idea. Back in the 90s, when I ran a Century 21 office, we used to encourage everybody to pick 3 municipalities, cities, townships, or MLS areas to be very knowledgeable about the numbers, because we found if you knew the numbers, you generally knew the numbers of the whole Bay Area or maybe your whole area. So Vanessa, for instance, you're in the Oklahoma City area. Name a bunch of the towns that are around there or cities. Like, is Norman around there and Edmond?
Norman, Newcastle, Tuttle, Yukon, Choctaw, Edmond, Guthrie.
Yeah. So
Piedmont.
So if I say the greater Oklahoma City area, then it would be all those areas, right?
All of them.
Okay, good. So in here we say the San Francisco Bay Area, in where Maureen is and Carla, don't you say the greater Phoenix metro or Phoenix metro area, I think you use, and that could be Chandler, Gilbert, Surprise, all those different areas. So, David and Andrew are in LA. Everybody calls it LA. And when they say LA, I go, where? And they end up being like in the Valley or in the Inland Empire. Those are different areas around there. So the reason I say that is what we were getting them to do. Do you all know, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but I want you to remember something about your MLSs. Your MLSs do not memorialize active or pending information. Let me say that one more time. Probably one of the greatest things you could be taught when you're a brand new agent. And David, you're probably not brand new, David Kim, but this is a really good thing to know. MLSs do not memorialize active and pending information. In other words, you can't go back 5 years and say, tell me how many homes in the month of January were on the market active versus pending, right? So we started back in the early 90s, basically in an Excel spreadsheet, but we were just using yellow pads back then. We were tracking 2 numbers every Monday morning in the 3 areas we picked. How many active single family homes were for sale? How many active condo townhomes? How many pending single family homes? And how many pending condo townhomes? And we started to notice that there was a ratio between active and pendings that could help you determine the strength of the market for a seller versus a buyer. So if the number of pendings and the number of actives were about equal, a 1-to-1 ratio, we were finding it was kind of a normal market. And a normal market in Norman, Oklahoma might be 120 days on the market. I don't know. But the normal market in the East Bay of the Bay Area was 30 days on the market, 30 to 60 days on the market. That was a normal market. But if we saw that the pending number was considerably higher, maybe 1.5 to 1 or 2 to 1, then it was definitely a seller's market. And if we saw that the number of actives was twice the number of pendings, we were definitely in a buyer's market, right? And I want you all to be urgent about knowing numbers that will literally floor anybody who hears you say them. Okay? Because you can go back in time and look at that sheet and quote it when you're talking to a seller or buyer, and they're going to go, I got to work with this guy because he knows more about the market than anybody I've talked to. I can have the best suit, the best tie, and still suck at selling real estate. I can have the best attitude and still suck at selling real estate. Because why? I have to be able to please the D's, the I's, the S's, and the C's. All of them. And guess what I live in? I live in the Bay Area, where the Silicon Valley, more engineers, more high C's than probably any congregated tiny little area of population. Lots of high C's. Right?
No, thank you.
So I want you to be thinking about, how is your urgency about knowing the business you're in, knowing it deeply, knowing it innately, right? Knowing that there's, why is your email box filled with people trying to get you to buy something? Because the real estate commission in a year in the United States is around $100 billion. Everybody wants a piece of that pie. Zillow, Redfin, realtor.com, they all want a piece of the pie. That's why. I don't want you worrying about what's going on in the whole United States. I want you getting your unfair share where you live and work. And the way to do that is to be the most knowledgeable, to be hungry, humble, smart, and coachable, to be the one that can alternate between the behavior of a D, an I, an S, and a C as you see necessary with the client you're talking to. I want you to be the one that shuts up and listens more and speaks less. If you got to draw out the real estate agent you wanted, what would he look like? What would he do? What would he not do? On a scale of 1 to 10, on the past realtors you've worked with, how would you rate the last real estate agent, with 1 being you never want to see or hear from him again, and 10 being you'd like to reuse that same agent? Well, if they're talking to you guys, it's not a 10, because if it was a 10, they'd be using the agent they used before. You know what I'm looking for? I'm looking for the answer. Well, the last agent was like a 6. I go, great. So what does a 6 mean to you? What would that agent have had to do to be a 10? Well, they wouldn't need to call me more often, and they wouldn't have to be waiting for me to call them and then them returning my call. That would be one thing. Man, what am I going to do with that client? I'm going to call their ass all day, freaking day, all until they say, stop calling me, Rick. I'm all good. Right? Lessons are there for you to learn. I said something to about 50 people on a Zoom yesterday. I said, your leaders want to help you, but your leaders do not read minds. Right? Buyers and sellers who are coming into the market for the first or second time assume you know what they need. But you don't until you say, I can't be the answer to your prayers till I know what you're praying for. And people tell me all the time, Rick, quit using that term. Say, I can't be the answer to your wishes till I know what you're wishing for. Great. Whatever you say. The most important thing is not what you say, not what statements you make, but what you ask. Right? My wife asked me a question the other day, which is why we are going to be happy and in love forever, is because we ask each other once in a while, hey, how can I speak to you in a way that tells you I love you every time I speak to you?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm writing that one down.
And you guys got to know, I think most of you know, I married way up, like.
Yes, you did.
Yes, shut up, Vanessa. My
I
friend,
thought I was muted.
no, but my buddies always say, they go, Rick, you really outkicked the coverage. And if you're a football fan, you get that analogy, right? So, but when she says that to me, I'm an IS. What's my answer? ISs are always going to say the same thing. I say, oh, I'm like, you're, it's fine. You're just, the way you're talking to me right now is just great. But think about asking those questions of buyers, sellers, the people on your team, the people you want to work with, the people you want to communicate with. How can I be a better me to you? It's essentially what you're saying. How can I be a better me to you? How can I be a better realtor for you? So, true story. I think I may have shared it here, but I don't think I've shared it very often. A buddy of mine calls me. He says, Rick, I have these friends in Sunol. It's a tiny little town. It's actually a township, not a city. It's between 2 big cities, Fremont and Pleasanton. He says they've fired 2 realtors. They've been on the market twice. This is about probably 95 to 97 in there. And they said, I told him you were amazing and that they really needed to talk to you. So I go out to meet with them. I call them. They tell us, right, go out to meet with them. And back then is when I was learning to say, how could, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would be the things you most want in the realtor you hire? After talking to them a little bit about their unpleasant experience. You know what they said? Never happened to me before that. It hasn't happened since. Oh, Rick, we're definitely interested in hiring a female realtor. I'm sorry. Why did you invite me here tonight? Oh, well, that's easy. Our friend told us you were amazing. And we thought, if nothing else, we can learn from you what we need in the female realtor we hire. I go, may I ask you a question? Why are you so insistent on hiring a female realtor? Oh, because the last 2 people we hired that our house just sat on the market for 90 days both times were men. I see. And you just assume all men are bad realtors now? They go, well, we know you're not, because we know Tom, and Tom wouldn't have recommended you unless you were amazing. I said, so there's really no way that I can convince you that you should switch to hiring me rather than anyone else, female or male. Nah, sorry. We made a decision. I go, all right, well, I'm not changing sex while we're here, so I should probably call it a night. You probably might want to enjoy your evening. And he goes, yeah, no, just a couple more questions though before you go, Rick. Like I was being used, the ultimate being used. But the night could have gone on a lot longer if I didn't ask the question, what are you looking for in your realtor? Right? I remember going to what would have been a $2 million land listing. And they ended up not selling. But I remember sitting down at their house. They had this big mansion, single story, like it spread out left and right. And it was a culturally a different couple than me. I'm Lebanese, full-blooded, but I'm born and raised in the United States. And this was people that were born and raised outside of the country and had done very well in the country. And I said, you know, we're just meeting each other, and you know, we got to talk on the phone, and I really enjoyed it. And now that I'm sitting here with the two of you, I was, you know, wondering, honest, you know, I like to say to people that I don't want to waste your time, and if you don't mind me using this term, I'm going to say, you know, I can't be the answer to your prayers until I know what you're praying for in the form of a real estate agent. Maybe you could tell me the top 5 things you're looking for in your real estate agent. And they proceeded to answer. And, you know, I wish everybody I ever taught real estate would have been in that room when they heard the answer, because none of the 5 things they said had anything to do with having a real estate license. None of them. They started with the word honest. Then they said somebody who liked family and wanted to support our family and our goals. That's the second thing they said. Somebody that would likes family and wants to support our family and our real estate goals. Right? Somebody that we can trust when our back's turned, because we got to go do what we do for a living, and during the day you got to do what you do for a living. That was number 3, right? I don't know that I remember 4 and 5, but I remember that 5 of them were nothing to do with having a real estate license. Right? Nothing to do with how many freaking houses have you sold in my neighborhood. Right? So one of the reasons, after I did all that, we started talking, and I said, well, I honestly feel, and I know that I have to prove myself, that those are 5 of my strongest points, which is why I'm still in the business after this many years and not laying in a ditch somewhere. And the guy laughed a little at that. And at the, I remember what the 5th one was now, because we talked about it a little more. And he said, somebody who knows their industry better than I know their industry. That's what he said. He said, I feel like I know a lot about real estate because I've been buying a lot of real estate since I came to this country, but I want my realtor to know more than me and to surprise me. And in the conversation, I had told him, because I'd done so much research, that his basically this huge lot that he had was only 6,000 square feet, right? Which, think about it, that's 60 by 100. And his is a huge couple acre lot. Was only 6,000 square feet off from being completely subdividable into 3 lots, right? Which would have made it more valuable. And if anybody had done any research, they would have seen that the property that bordered his had a good, much more than that on the side that was all being wasted. It was just dump and trees. And so I told him, I said, well, anybody who's done some research would tell you that you should go see if you can do a lot line adjustment with your neighbor, pay him $100,000. It'll probably make you $500,000, and buy off 6,000 square feet of his land that borders yours. And he just like sat back, and his wife said, do you understand what he's saying, honey? And he goes, I understand it, but I'm a little bit surprised because we've talked to 4 other realtors and nobody said that. Right? So in other words, you don't get to just say, I can be the answer to your prayers. You've got to go out and then be that answer to the prayers, right? So all of that requires urgency. So knowing the actives versus pendings, knowing the market, never saying you have a crystal ball, because you don't. Right? Every time I thought I've had a crystal ball, I found out it had a crack in it. Right? In other words, like my impression of what was going to happen didn't happen. So all I say is, let me tell you what's going on right now, what it's an indication of. Now, in Fremont, California, which is 230,000 population, one of the biggest cities here besides San Jose, Oakland, and San Francisco, one of the biggest cities. Well, it is. It's the 4th biggest in the Bay Area. So it's San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose are the 3 biggest, and then Fremont. And Fremont suburbia. But it's 230,000. Most of the towns around here have between 40 and 90,000. Fremont has 230, right? So we saw the active inventory in the last month go up by 27%, while the pending inventory only went up 10%. What's that an indication? Finally, there's a crack in the ceiling, there's a break in the ice, and inventory is starting to go up. One of the buyer's agents on my team said, hey, Rick, I ran the criteria for our sister buyers. It's 2 sisters that are teachers. Last week, and there were 8 homes that showed up in the search. This week, there were 15. Pay attention to the small stuff, guys. Makes you urgent, makes you help your clients be more urgent, and changes your success level. Now, almost everything I talked about until the last 15 minutes has been mindset, but the last 15 minutes has been stuff you got to do, not mindset. Go do this stuff. Know your marketplace. Be enthusiastic about marketplace, but you can be more enthusiastic if you understand what the numbers mean, right? You know, my client told me yesterday, I just told him, I said, we got to really hurry and get your work done because inventory is growing. He goes, really? Because I keep hearing the prices just taking off and there's no end in sight. I go, I don't care what you heard. I'm telling you, inventory is going up. Let's get your home on the market ASAP. When will he be done with the work? And he just sent back 2 words. Thank you. Right? It's our job, guys. You can't go through this blindly. All right? Okay. This has been one of my most enjoyable calls in a while because it's stuff that I'm passionate about and it's stuff that's helpful for me, and I know it'll be helpful for you. We only got 3 minutes left because we got to jump off. And then KC, listen, I'm gonna give you my cell, and I want you to text me because I don't know that I have your number in my phone. Okay. And anybody else that needs my phone, yes.
What do you have for breakfast today? I want to get some of that.
Who was that, Andrew? You're such a variety. So one of the things I do, Andrew, that drives me is I try to stop eating by 7:30 p.m. and not eat till 11 a.m. Because typically I have my workout at 10. I'm not going to have that today, so I will eat soon, probably before 10:30. But generally I only eat protein in the morning. I don't have much carbs. It's protein and maybe veggies. So I'll usually either have a piece of chicken or a piece of fish, and I'll have a couple of almonds for some healthy fats. And then I'm not always that healthy during the day, but I always like to start my morning that way because protein is what starts your engine in the morning. So thank you for asking. I don't know if you were serious or kidding, but I answered it seriously anyway. So.
Oh, you're on fire today, and you spoke with great urgency. So thank you.
Probably because the subject of the call was urgency. So anyway, David Kim, nice to have you as a newbie on the call. Join us anytime. Andrew, give him my email if he wants to email me to ask to be on the email list. And of course, Corey, same for you. I love all you guys. Got to go out, be urgent, change your destination, change your results by being urgent. Okay.
That was great. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Okay. Take care.
Have a great day. Enjoy your dinner.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell Lucy happy birthday.
I'll tell her. I don't know if she can hear you back there, but I don't think she can. All right. See you guys.